ahead and mute themselves. Thank you so much for everyone who is joining us here live in person. And again, all those who are going to be joining online on Facebook and LinkedIn. If you are tuning in, you're watching South Florida Tech Talks. Really happy and excited to have a both group of people here on Zoom with us live who are tuning in, and then folks who are here on social media as well. So this is an event we do every week. We're actually going to start off with a sponsor today before we kick off our tech talk and talk with Mike Conway. And that sponsor is Ashley Kays from Code Teachers. So Ashley, if you want to take it away, and thank you for your support for the event, and look forward to hearing more about Code Teachers.
Thank you. It's my pleasure. I love all of you guys. Monica, should I share my screen?
Yeah.
Okay, thanks. Just checking. Okay. Can everybody see my screen? Thumbs up. Yep, Monica shook her head, yes. Okay, perfect. Like just mentioned, I'm here with Code Teachers. Code Teachers and Boca Code just recently partnered. So the cool thing about that for us is that means that we can now offer kids and adult level education. So we pretty much can cover the full gamut from tech exploration for kids to, jump into a career as an engineer from Boca Code. So Code Teachers was formed a few years ago. I'll keep it really short. I don't want to bore you guys or take away from Mike, but Code Teachers was formed a few years ago. Really started it for my own daughter and son, and really remembered myself how much technology gave me an opportunity to have a voice and to become a creator. And it's just given me something to look forward to really every single day of my life. And I wanted to pass that on to them. So with some smart help recently, have really shifted some of our classes to focus on helping students stand out to universities. A lot of our classes also focus on becoming an entrepreneur or startup, or planning to start your own startup if you're a kid. And if you're coming to Boca Code classes, it would either be preparing to work in an organization or work or start your own startup. So one of Code Teachers' most popular classes is called Tech Exploration. And this is really an entry point to learning to code, design, and learning a little bit about YouTube so that you can decide where to go next from there. And on Friday, I have a talk with Palm Beach Tech to talk about how to raise a genius, or, a tech exploration for kids to kind of discover where they fit and what interests them the most. The cool thing about learning technology, and I can attest to this from myself and from my own kids, is that it just teaches you how to think. And kids who code test 75% higher in logic and abstract thinking. They also, just can solve problems. They have more confidence. Boca Code offers some really amazing courses also for adults. In fact, there's some tonight for JavaScript, but there's engineering, they have user experience, JavaScript. So bottom line, we love our students, whether they're small or big, and hope that you come and check us out. And that's pretty much that. Thank you.
Awesome. Thank you so much for your support, Ashley, and for everything that Code Teachers does for the students in our community. I'm going to go ahead and introduce our speaker for tonight, and a little bit about our event. If I can actually, here we go with the presentation. So tonight we're going to be talking native content and optimization with Mike Conway, the CTO at Bidtellect. Obviously, Code Teachers is sponsoring tonight. But a little bit more about what we do as an organization for those who have not seen. Our mission is to build South Florida into a tech hub. We do that through events like this, obviously virtually, but in non-COVID times, this would be an in-person event. We do have a community creed that reads, "We are wholeheartedly committed to building a welcoming, collaborative, and inclusive community for all." That's, of course, on our website as well that you can take a look at and see. And we are, of course, member supported. So we have a number of corporate members all throughout South Florida that do support us, some of which we already talked about, like City Furniture, Nextera Energy, and we're going to be talking about Bidtellect a little later in the talk as well. And in addition to Tech Talks, we have things like podcasts, community coffees on Tuesday mornings, workshops on Fridays, and large events like annual hackathons that we also take, that we also curate for the community. If you're interested in membership, either individual or corporate, you can go online and sign up at southfloridatech.com. There's a number of things that we do and provide for corporate members specifically, but every member gets a member box with a t-shirt and a number of other swag items. So you do check that out. Go to southfloridatech.com, click on the green button on the top right side, and you can learn more about the organization. Also, if you're interested in staying in touch, you can join us on Slack. We do have a South Florida Tech Community Slack channel. You can go, of course, onto our website again and do /Slack and sign up for that. And of course, if you want to stay in touch, just text us your email to that number right there, 561-250-7206, or of course, go on our website. You can sign up there too. So that's a little bit about us. I'm going to kick it off to our speaker for this evening, and that is Mr. Mike Conway. He is the CTO at Bidtellect, which is, you know what, he is one of the more brilliant people you will meet. He's been on our board of directors for the last couple of years. He also leads some of our education initiatives. And Bidtellect as a company uses some of the most intensive machine learning and predictive analytics algorithms to help put native advertising on websites across the world. Some of their technology is really groundbreaking and next level, but Mike is going to be talking with us today about a number of those things. So Mike, thank you very much for supporting the organization and for joining us on the Tech Talk here tonight.
Thanks a lot, Joe. Do you mind if I share my screen?
Yeah, please go right ahead.
There we go. All right, can you all see that? Can you see that, Joe?
Yeah, perfect. We got your whole screen and your preview slides.
I'm just going to do this. That's not what I want to do. Hold on. Let's change this. That's all right. I'll leave it like that as long as you guys can see it. So let me tell you a little bit about myself first before we jump into the presentation. I do want to thank Joe for the introduction. I do have a very deep passion for what the mission is for Palm Beach Tech, now South Florida Technology. We, at this time, a year ago, our focus was more on the Palm Beaches, but with our expansion, I think we have so much to offer the entire South Florida region, and not from a perspective of just selling services, but actually being there for the community. Mihai Fonaj and myself are co-chairs of the Education Committee, which really is in two ways, to focus on the kids, to keep from K through 12, to get them excited about STEM, to get them involved in STEM. Also working with the higher education. I'm the president of the FAU Computer Engineering and Electrical and Computer Sciences Industry Advisory Board, which is a good adjacency to what we do at Palm Beach Tech. Is we're working with the higher education to really provide the needs of the industry so that the students that come out of these universities, FIU, FAU, Nova Southeastern, and Palm Beach State, are teaching the right curriculum. So I going in the direction we're working with Sheila Voorhees, who's a lobbyist up in Tallahassee that works closely with South Florida Technology, and we couldn't have a better group led by Joe and Nikki and Monica. So I just want to get that out of the way first. So I'm Mike Conway. I am the Chief Technology Officer for Bidtellect. I lead both the product and the technology organizations, and that means a lot of different things to a lot of different people. I oversee ongoing initiatives and responsible for development of core apps and our system platforms, all the way down to our infrastructure and talking about hardware, cloud implementations, but also our data infrastructure. Data is a huge player in what we do, and we'll get into that in a little bit. I'm also responsible for exploring emerging technologies. I spend a lot of my days talking to vendors and looking at industry trends within technology. I'm on the CIO Council to understand, what are the macro trends and what are the micro trends, and how do they fit with our ultimate solution? And I spend a lot of time putting a lot of thought together and recommendations to not only the C-level, but our board of directors and investors for moving things forward. And like Joe said, I'm also, are responsible for our technical community programs with South Florida Tech, our at university collaborations with FAU, and I also sit on the interactive advisory board out of New York that sets the standards for our industry. So I'm on two what they call tech work clubs that works on privacy across the industry, as well as standardization of bid requests and information coming from the publishers to the advertisers. So there's a lot. So what does that mean in context for Bidtellect? Bidtellect is a native built DSP. That's a demand side platform. If I could explain the digital marketplace, you have advertisers that work for brands. Let's say we have an advertiser group, maybe the Zimmerman Group down in Broward County, that work directly with Marriott or Hilton on the travel vertical, or with Dell and Microsoft. We would have relationships directly with the advertisers, and the advertisers would determine their marketing campaigns, whether it's television, radio, or digital, and we're part of that digital spend. And I'm going to tell you a little bit about what we do within that digital space, because we're a non-traditional display advertiser. We built our platform from the ground up with privacy first, which is a big thing today. And if you don't hear about the California Consumer Privacy and GDPR in the EU, and you're working in e-commerce or anything online, then there's going to be hell to pay, right? So the privacy is just 100% on our forefront in our minds and making things work. With that, we built this platform so that we have the ability to deliver across all devices and all formats within the digital scale, digital marketplace. Our native platform is built to drive full funnel, right? So from brand recognition at the top of the funnel to mid-funnel tactics, all the way down to the conversion at the end. So our platform builds digital ads that really look and feel like the page that they're delivered on. They act as content previews, right? And when a consumer engages with that, to measure that engagement is priceless to the brands. And our technology takes all of those activities and actions and behaviors of the user, how it interacts with those ads and that web page, whether they click on the ad or not, to really feed our algorithms to determine the propensity and the predictability of your nature to convert on an advertisement. So what I want to start out with a little bit of education, right? What is native? People have heard about digital advertising, but what is native? Well, native advertising is really taking paid content coming from the advertisers and the brands, so it matches the look, the feel, and function of the media format in which it appears. Now that's kind of a textbook answer, right? But what it is that it's an ad that's on the page that's providing content, like a content preview that looks just like the page, right? Unlike display ads that take over the top as a whole full banner, or interstitials that, as you're scrolling down, take over the page. Native advertising looks just like the rest of the content on the page. And the reason that this is effective is that, it's a pull model as opposed to a push model, where traditional advertising just gives you the advertising, and we're basically building the ads on the fly to look just like that page. So think Facebook for the open web. When you go down Facebook and you see the feed, it looks exactly like a lot of the comments you get, However, you get the little sponsored by or add a little ad tag to let you know that it is an ad. So what is the advantage, right? Everybody hates advertising. Everybody hates, going from one page and seeing the same advertisement following them for other things. But native is unintrusive. And again, just like I said before, and publishers and consumers have a propensity to click on them almost 6x of what a traditional ad banner or a traditional advertisement on a page. So, because of the location of these placements, what the aesthetic is and where it is, that's the advantage that we have. And we focus solely on native advertising. So again, I'm not gonna, this is a mouthful. I'm not gonna dive deep, but native, basically it just creates a better experience, right? And these are all stats. I will send out this presentation to everybody so you can click on and see more. But consumers want content. They don't just want an ad that tells them what they like. We have success with a lot of with the technology vertical with clients like Dell and Microsoft and HPE, where you wouldn't know it was an HPE ad or you wouldn't know it was a Dell ad because it just talked about the technology itself. It didn't sit and try and sell itself. It sold the type of technology that they sell as just an awareness campaign, which drove up some sales. We pierced through the clutter. Again, we talked about performing through the funnel, and then it's so effective that a lot of publishers are actually opening up more inventory to native only and changing the way their websites are built. So this is a slide. I'm going to talk about how our optimization technology leverages AI, predictive modeling, big data. And then I'm going to talk about what marketers really need to do to make sure that their best content experience is given to their customers. Again, going to go back to a little bit of education. A placement. A placement represents an unchanging slot of purchasable inventory. What that means is that each publisher reserves a space within their website and their layout that they have for sale. And they tag that website in HTML and put that out to the ecosystem and say, I have these placements for sale. So when you get to a website, here's an example of two specific native placements on a website. When you get to the website, all that publisher sends that information saying, hey, I have this user and these placements available out to the supply side partners, that it basically aggregates demand for the purchase of these slots. What those supply side partners put it out to numerous demand partners, and we participate in what's called an open real-time bidding, which is an auction. So we take that information, which is in a request format, a request for an ad. We take the user information, we take past behaviors, we take the placement history and its performance factors, and decide which campaigns out of the 700 campaigns that we have running fits that user, that placement, and that domain level page that is on. And all of that has to be done from the time you click on that page in under 100 milliseconds. If we're anytime above 100 milliseconds, we get dropped from the auction and will not be able to serve an impression. So we service about 55 billion transactions on a weekly basis. And we make approximately 30 million decisions a second to process the data. This is what makes it fun. So what makes us different? So traditional display ads, placements don't matter very much. Their ads are pre-built, they're pre-sized, So they can only bid on placements of that size, and those assets will get delivered. The ad renders are always the same. So their natural optimization is the user itself, right? And in a second, you'll find out why I'm talking about using the user as the optimization path. Therefore, if you're on two websites and the user is the same, the DSP built for display uses that top level, and that value of that slot will be identical, right? So if let's say USA Today and the Chicago Tribune have these two placements, the same user clicks on both of these pages. A traditional display would say this is for Chicago Tribune at the top level is probably $1.25 for me to give an ad to that slot. Well, we take it a step further. We actually care about where that placement is. So in traditional display, like we just said, that slot could be on the bottom of the page where you haven't even scrolled down to yet, but they're still bidding $1.25. We actually look at the placement, its adjacencies, the articles that are around it and above and below it, and we look at where it is on the page. We also look at the size and the feel of where it is on that page based on the information that's in the request. So I'll in layman's terms, we would for the things that are below the page that we don't find a lot of value or that are poor placements, we probably wouldn't bid very much. Yet for things that are in the middle of the page that are in feed, we'd probably bid $2.50, and because we feel that it's much more valuable, and the performance of that placement is a lot higher. So naturally we're not wasting ad spend for our clients, and we're making sure that the media dollars work harder for our customers. So you wouldn't pay for a concert in the 310 section the same amount of money that you would pay for a concert 5 rows dead from the center. So that's what I liken it, where a traditional display advertising would pay exactly the same for both of those seats. So if you look at it, just to re-ask, placements are the same there's no differentiation between an ad placement within a traditional DSP. They use user optimization, and that's all they can do because they don't use the information that is actually readily available, but they just were not built that way. So it works well for display. It's just not sufficient for our customers and for the delivery of native assets, right? Where the DSP treats everything the same, we're gonna treat it differently. So how do we do that? We treat each placement as distinct, right? So all the targeting, viewability, and site lists are still available to us. However, we take the context of where that placement is, right? We'll look at the placement, the adjacencies we talked about, page at the size, feel, quantity. We'll look how each campaign in our platform and the creatives have performed with respect to a complete hierarchy of factors in estimating the performance towards that goal that's in place for our users, whether it's a click-through goal or whether it's a return on ad spend. So we don't just stop there. We also use the same user information that the traditional DSPs do, but the foundational and the more granular that we get is what gives us our leg up against our competition in head-to-head against Google and Facebook, and every company over the last 16 months. We have beat them from a performance marketing standpoint as far as win rate and return on ad spend. So let's talk about the technology. We have 100 milliseconds to answer the bid request, to determine what the bid is going to be, whether or not we're going to bid on it, and then go through all of our steps to figure out which ad and how we're going to go through this entire process. The first thing for every campaign we're looking at, there's 3 parts to optimization: our pacer, our estimation, and our optimization. We allocate campaign budget using a pacer. And the pacer is really just a score of 0 to 1, which means we're telling the campaign how many available auctions that we want them to participate in. And we calculate this every minute. For those who have a car that's older than 2010, you probably use some of the same algorithms that we use to control our pacer. We use a PID controller, and the PID controller is just like a cruise control that constantly adjusts your speed to make sure you stay within the boundaries of delivery. So we use the same math and statistics. We take the goal type, and we'll talk about the goal types that we have within the system, and we set whatever goal levels and dimensions that they want to achieve. And we set the PID, and this algorithm and the PID controller basically looks at all the data that's been delivered and across all campaigns, and looks at the budget across that IO or insertion order, and make sure that we deliver everything in full when it's supposed to be done. The next thing is estimation. Estimation is basically, this is where predictive analytics come in, right? It's our ability to estimate the performance of any given auction. It really informs whether at the beginning, whether we choose to bid and at what price. All of that upfront discussion that I brought up really to determine where the placement is, the size, and its past performance feeds into our algorithms constantly as they come in. And we participate in about 42% of the auctions that come in, because we will optimize out of them and say they're not worth it and not worth the wasted spend. So this estimation process for many of our goal types really looks at the most granular level and statistical significance for a huge hierarchy of dimensions, and I'll talk about that as we get down a few slides. And then we have optimization goal algorithms, and this is where we have a constant feedback into our machine learning algorithms to determine what valuation factor we need to apply to a bid price. Right, so all of these things have to work in conjunction. Our advertisers can set the bid price, that this is what they want to bid. We have to back into that at times, but we're continually adjusting as we go. So they fall into 3 buckets. Really, a bid curve where the y-axis represents output of the valuation factor that we've calculated, and then against the relative performance of the auction in question, right? So again, we're using a Wolfram Alpha curve that looks at all of the campaign average performance over time, and the calculated KPI valuation factor on the goal type that you've put in, and gives us a nice curve to determine at what levels we will bid and at what band we have a propensity to win that auction. The next bucket is really called the target adjuster, where we actually set the KPI target, but we also set cut points below and above that target that will allow us to control certain large scale campaigns that are short in nature, so that we can control whether or not we want to bid after things have been calculated on the bid curve. And then in some cases, we want to actually take the KPI valuation factor and just directly calculate and add that to the bid price, so that we can back into a monetary goal. And that's just a mechanism with our system where we can actually flip a switch that we either want to do it by full delivery or we want to do it by performance, and eat some of that cost. But so all of these things are using the bids come in, they come in and get through a messaging system, Kafka, directly into our system. We look at all the bid requests, all the ones that we decide that we're not going to bid on, we just drop. All others go into a large scale Hadoop data lake, where we do active learning and reload cache. We're a heavy cache company, meaning we do some local cache. We also use Aerospike for some of our immediate delivery and Couchbase for some of our mid-tier cache. But what that allows us to do is to make sure that we are tracking our best performing, so that we can react, near real time. So I know I'm going fast because I usually do this in about an hour, and I'm trying to do this quickly. So our optimization technology, we use a hierarchy of granularity. So where most DSPs use the top level domain, we go down from the domain all the way down to the placement. We go down to the user characteristics. We get down to the creative. We get down to the, so that there's just I have a whole list, and I deliberately didn't put them in order because that gets into our secret sauce of the decisioning. But we get down to the most granular level of data that we can actually make an effective decision that has the most significance, and we're the only DSP that uses all the way down to the placement and the creative level. We also, I was talking about campaign goal types and KPIs. We have 14. That's a misnomer. It should be 14. We actually just backed one out. We do average time on site. We do bounce rate. That's if customers come click on your ad, then all of a sudden just spend less than 5 seconds to get out because it was maybe a thumb click or just a fat finger. Page views for a visit, visits per click, traditional CTR. We also are the only DSP that operates on a cost per click, a straight cost per click, without having to do any backends from a CPM model. We have a proprietary engagement score. When users click on our ad, that for campaigns that we have invoked an engagement score, instead of a 1-by-1 image pixel, we actually install a JavaScript pixel that measures bounce rate, time on site, your scroll depth, so that we can actually provide you a proprietary engagement score for how they interact with your ad. Let's face it, advertisers are paying for engagement. They want the consumers to engage with their content. So the more that we can push that and provide the information as post-click information, which is hard to come by, to our customers, the more educated decisions they can make about their ad spend. And then click-through conversions, view-through conversions, IAS viewability. IAS is an industry standard for viewability, which guarantees that ads are seen, and that people aren't paying for somebody to have an ad off the page and then getting paid for that delivery. So that there's a lot of backup work, right? But how do we do this? How does this really work, right? So we talked about the publishers submit their requests into the ad exchange, right? So that bid request comes with user information, right? The site it's on, the publisher it's coming from, the user ID, so that we can make the decisions on all of those things and determine what the bid response is and what the bid value would be. If we win, then the assets get sent over to the publisher. We give them an image, we give them a short text, and we give them the long text, and it will click out to their content. So our bidder was specifically built to drive that performance. Everything that I talked about in the previous slides, and even the education, if you take anything out of this, it's that, the Bidtellect platform, native ads are not created equal, right? They perform much better. It's critical to have that contextual understanding of where things are on the page and the value that they bring to your company and your brand. And the other side of that coin, which I deliberately left off because it could go on forever, is that of brand safety, right? So from a brand safety perspective, some clients don't want to be adjacent to any ads that are talking about politics, or they won't want to be next to any ads that talk about natural disasters. So we have the ability to understand the context of that placement and to decide not to deliver that campaign because of it could possibly do damage to the brand. So since day one of our inception, we're talking 2014, we've indexed millions of native ad placements. We maintain a cache of about 55 million placements. Their performance and their, and our success factor with them, and we leverage that, as we talked about before, with all of that other information to feed our algorithms and to continuously build and readjust our algorithms to deliver more accurately. I guess the one other thing I want to touch when that's not here as well is we also take the user information, and one of the things that we are uniquely positioned, especially with all the GDPR, the CCPA, and there's 5 other states that are out there with privacy regulations currently in the legislature. We don't use any personal information. We have your ID coming from the publisher, which you've consented to give that publisher. And we build audiences based on your behavior, but they're never used or never sold. And we use predictive analytics to discover the propensity of you to click on any industry vertical based on the page that you're on. So lots of stuff go into the intelligence for us to deliver all under 100 milliseconds. But to that end, we also provide full transparency to our clients, right? So we give them all of the performance information at the placement level. Go back to the original comment where traditional DSPs only care about the domain. That's about the level of reporting that you get from some of these digital behemoths. I came from AOL and Yahoo. I was on that side, and what we can do here is just critical to understanding really how ad spend is performed, and they're just touching the surface. They would have to rewrite their architecture to complete it. So having that granularity allows for our superior algorithmic performance. We're just, above reproach. I can't say it enough how proud I am of the guys and what we've done in the last 3 years. So how do you make it work for you, right? So like I talked about from a business perspective, native works across the upper funnel, the mid funnel, and the lower funnel, right? Brand awareness campaigns are fantastic. educational content, users of websites, when they're going to a tech website, they don't want to see an ad for a particular server. What they want to see is understanding of what you offer and content to absorb, to make their own educational decision. And then at the mid funnel, where we start measuring the engagement, and you really want to get maybe some deeper understanding of particular products. So you use sequential messaging that will push stuff down. The first time you're introduced to the brand, the second time you have a different message. And then all the way down to the lower funnel, where we're talking about actual conversions, right? So I'm kind of gonna close is how do you do native right? And I know, Nikki, you talking about why. I dove deep into well, not even deep, but I gave you a lot of information. But what works, right? I can't stress enough to produce the best content, right? If you don't provide quality content in your marketing material that really makes the user feel like they were educated, then you're not going to be successful. Be relevant and accurate. Don't rely on the clickbait headlines. Everybody goes to a website and they see those little boxes at the bottom of the page. And those are 90% done by two companies called Taboola and Outbrain. And they're our direct competitors. They consider themselves native, but they're all clickbait. You go in there and the next thing you know, you have to click to 25 different pages to follow one story, and they're giving you 52 different ads every page and collecting on that. But it's not doing you any good. It's usually just entertainment or other things. It's not value to the brand. In fact, they're not really selling brand. They're just clickbait to get other advertisements up there. The other thing is understanding your goals. Our algorithms only work effectively to meet your goals if you're clearly set on what your objective is of your marketing campaign. Many a times we have set the targeting solutions to a specific set of criteria, and halfway through the campaign they decided that no, this is what I really wanted. That doesn't work. So make sure that you have clearly set your objectives, because look in every marketing, right? So we provide targeting solutions for based on product type, location, demographics, language, day parting. We have over 25 different targetable things, and we optimize to every one of those. And we, the pride of the technology and why I believe that we're head and shoulders above everybody else is the fact that our system is meant to set it and forget it. Our system automatically adjusts, like I talked about for the pacer. It uses a bid controller. For a lot of our goals and our bidding algorithms, we use some semblance of that, and other machine learning premises, but not. It's only effective if we're clear on those up front. And I guess that's really it. Understanding your targeting. We talked about that. That's what I ended with. But I did leave you some other slides in the back, just so that you could go through and look at what these really are, native formats, just examples, so you can see how things are delivered. But it's really an interesting time for the industry, and one of the things that's really put us in the forefront and our ability to maintain our focus is because right now the industry is getting away from cookies, third-party cookies in particular. So Google is, and with iOS 14, They're making a lot of changes to have to opt in. And Google is saying in 18 months, they're going to get rid of third-party cookies altogether. With our contextual optimization, we don't require cookies, right? We can do it off the IDFA or device ID that's on the phone. So with that, I'll open up to questions. There was a lot of information, and I apologize.
Yeah, if you want to unshare your screen there while we spend some time on questions. So is there anybody on the, if you can unshare your screen?
Yeah, I'm getting there.
Okay, perfect. If there's anybody on the call who'd like to chime in, you can go ahead and do that right now.
So does this sort of thing mainly work for like big companies like Honda or Dell, as opposed to like a service provider in a small community? Like, because of where I live, I'm very familiar with advertising.com, Millennial Media, Double Positive, and Videology. And
that's
I'm
where
like,
I came from. I was employee number 6 at Millennium Media. But the answer to your question is no. We actually have a relationship with a larger company called Tegna, and they focus on sales of IOs to smaller focused companies like restaurants and local companies. So we can do micro geo targeting, zip code targeting, and the like. So yeah, we scale from $4,000 to $500,000 for an IO. So we're scaled for both small and large. And just so you know, the chairman of our board is the one who sold advertising.com to AOL.
I had a feeling.
Were you guys affected positively or negative by COVID? And like, did you guys stay the course to what you were doing, or did you like pivot to any other channels, or how did you guys?
So maybe Courtney will kill me, but if you look at we actually suffered pretty heavily because we had a large scale part of our portfolio in the travel and entertainment, right? So we had some huge customers in the hotel chains, and we had some huge restaurant chains that just basically stopped spending. What we did, we doubled down on our development efforts we were able to successfully keep the team intact. We didn't have any reductions, but the sales force started focusing on the verticals that were still spending money, and we did expand, and we've actually come out this side very well. So
That's great to hear.
I think that was a great assessment, Mike. Excellent job.
Anyone else have any thoughts or questions for Michael?
Yeah, I'm curious about ad blockers that are installed on web browsers. How does Bidtellect handle that?
So, I mean, the honest answer is we don't, right? So ad blockers will never get a bid request. So it won't get a bid request from you. But the adoption rate of ad blockers is only about 16% across users right now. So, I don't foresee that as being a blocker to industry long term.
So do you want to touch on political ads, or is
We
that a third rail?
We don't touch them. So that was a conscious decision strategically that we didn't want to touch them. Although there's a lot of dollars in that, but I think just from an ethical standpoint, we want to stay away from it.
With your analytics, do you ever look at doing something else other than marketing?
Not yet. We're still small. So we started out as this rendition of the company really in 2014. So we're 6 years in. So still fairly small. We're only about 65 employees. But yeah, there's a lot of application. I came from, and maybe Ed will laugh at me. So I came my history and my career has been pretty eclectic, but it's always been on high transactional data systems. I started out my career as a programmer at NASA, Goddard Space Flight Center in Maryland. And my entire life was dealing with data analytics coming down and decomming data coming from lower satellites, low Earth orbit satellites. And then I went and took that knowledge and I worked at Celera Genomics out of Rockville, Maryland, where we mapped the human genome. So I worked on the algorithm work. And you know, really nascent. We were there for 6 years. The business model went bad because President Clinton said we couldn't keep the information because it was science data. So then I went to a company, small company that was based out of Dallas. We got bought by Xerox, but we wrote all of the in-road engineering and the back office for electronic tolling transactions. So we did all the East Coast, Easy Pass, ePass, SunPass. And then after that, I went into mobile advertising when we started Millennium Media. So all big high transactions. So your question is, you know, can you use that to those same algorithms? Some of those same models we brought from place to place, right? Like the pig controller. One of the things that when I came down here was we changed the way that we paced our ad spend, right? Because it wasn't as elegant as it could be and accurate. So we took the PID controller, you know, premise and applied that to what we were doing with the individual campaigns.
All right, guys, we are a little bit over time today, so we're gonna have to wrap it up for everybody. But Mike, we want to thank you very much for coming and sharing. If anyone is interested, of course, this recording will be on Facebook. And you can dive into our Facebook page to review this and check out the slides. And you know, we're going to be hosting our Tech Talks again weekly, so tune in next week as well. Nikki, any other thoughts or announcements before we head out?
No, I think we're good. I just wanted to thank everybody like normal for coming and sticking with us, and hopefully we'll see everybody again at another one.
Yeah, if you guys have questions, send them to Nikki or myself, and I'll be glad to answer.
Yeah, and again, thank you to Mike Conway. Thank you to the whole Bidtellect team for being part of our organization, for doing everything you guys do, to support the community. And I hope everyone has a really awesome week.
Thanks, guys.
Thanks, everybody.
Thanks, Mike.